Ladies and gentlemen, the following is another phenomenal episode of the Wrestling Fans Podcast, Ringside Society. In one corner, we have the monarch of Mardi Gras, the Baroness of Bourbon Street. When she's not co-hosting Ringside Society, she goes on crazy misadventures such as shopping for DeLoreans, to go back to 1885 for freshly churned butter, looking for the fabled Cobra Kai dojo, and dressing up as one of the Road Warriors and picking fights with random people. Louisiana's own Kathy Knight. In the second quarter, we have the greatest thing on God's green earth. We're not talking about money, Mary Jane, or Popeye Spinach. He is the tranquil dart of Ringside Society and Delaware's greatest American hero. It takes two to make a thing go right. He's Rob Bass, and you are not. And in the third corner, we have that ocean crossing, straight up Boston, flight catching, shot glass snatching, always positive, life is great, repping 592, 78, the world, Remy Blue. And ladies and gentlemen, our special guest tonight is a man that has been on our radar for the past couple of months. We have been so excited to finally get him on the show. He is former AAW heavyweight champion, former NWA Midwest Tag Team champion, as one half of one of the best tag teams to hit the indie scene, the Black and the Brave. And now he is the head trainer for Black and Brave Wrestling. That's right, molding the next generation of superstars for the professional wrestling world. Everybody, welcome to the show, the Product Marek Brave.
Woo! Hey man, that was great. That was great. Good job.
I try, man. I try. You know, I try to channel my inner road dog and Justin Roberts, and just, you know, be as loud as I can. Hopefully, I sound good.
Yeah, man. I liked it.
But Marek, I gotta say, it's an honor to have you on here. You know, not just because you're one half of the Black and the Brave with Seth Rollins, not just because you're a former NWA and also former AAW heavyweight champion, but also the head trainer of the Black and Brave Wrestling Academy, one of the most talked about wrestling schools in professional wrestling today, that has given us great athletes such as WWE superstar Nathan Center, and also Young Lions Cup contender over on the West Coast, Trip Jordy. You guys, I just have to say, you guys are doing phenomenal work, and I just keep looking forward to seeing what's next for y'all. But other than that, how are you doing today, sir?
Let's give a shout out to Zicky Dice, who we trained. Steve Manders, one called Manders, we trained him. Heather Reckless, Conan Lycan, Solomon Tupu. I'm going to get so much heat for leaving so many people out. Like, they're all going to, bust my balls when I get back to the gym. But we've had a good group of men and women come through the school over the last 8 years, almost 8 years now. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm actually amazed that, like whenever I see somebody's Twitter profile or Instagram profile, I see how impressive they look. I'm like, okay, what's their deal? And then I see Black and Brave Wrestling. I'm like, wow. I tell you, Seth Rollins and Marek Brave, they're really doing it big down there. I'm like, wow, that's I'm just very impressed by it.
Thank you, man. That's what we like to hear. We like to bring them in the right way, and hopefully they can go on and represent us well, while also building a good career for themselves in the process.
Yeah. So, Marek, first off, I gotta say, you and Seth, y'all were an amazing tag team. As a matter of fact, the Black and the Brave were part of I have these weird dream matches that sometimes it's indie wrestlers versus WWE wrestlers, and sometimes it's two indie wrestlers that I've never met before. You guys, the Black and Brave, are part of a dream match that I had. You guys versus, I don't know if you've ever heard of this tag team. Rob, I know you're familiar with them because you're in Delaware. Christian York and Joey Matthews. Another
Yeah,
favorite team
well,
of mine that I enjoy watching.
interesting that you would say that because we're good friends with Joey Mercury. I've actually wrestled Christian York in a singles match before for AAW way back in the day, but we did never compete against those two gentlemen in a tag team contest. So it still could be a dream match that will probably never happen, but would have been a fun one.
Yeah, I know for a fact that because I've seen a couple of y'all's matches, and I'm like, if I had known about the Black and the Brave way back then, because I wasn't really always watching indie wrestling. I had like on and off periods.
It
But
was a
if I
lot
had
harder
seen you
back then.
guys, yeah, if I had seen you guys back in the day, you guys would have been my favorite tag team. I would have been complete. You guys would have been because there's not a lot of tag teams that I say I would completely like go like have serious fandom for. Like there's the Rockers, and then there's London and Kendrick. Y'all definitely would have been up there with them. I would have been
Oh
wearing the
well,
merch and everything.
thank you. I'm flattered. That's high praise.
So I gotta ask. I always ask, 99% of our guests that we have on here, whether they're a wrestler, manager, or and whatnot. But how? What was the event? Or what was the pay-per-view that made you become a fan of professional wrestling and made you decide, hey, this is what I want to do. This is my calling. I'm putting it all in.
Well, so I'm 35 years old. I got into wrestling when I was about 5 years old, so 91, 92. There was no specific event or anything that really hooked me, but I just remember, just kind of thinking it was pretty cool, and my neighbors thought it was cool, and so my close friend group, we all kind of bonded over wrestling, and that was when I was living in Kansas when I was a small child. Uh, by the time I was 11, 12 years old, we had moved to Davenport, Iowa, and I wouldn't meet Seth for a few more years. But I got together with a bunch of friends in Iowa who also liked wrestling and would put on essentially backyard wrestling shows inside of a barn. And that's what we do in Iowa, right? Like, of course, it was in a barn. Uh, and that company is actually still around today. It's a full-fledged independent company, no longer backyard wrestling. Everyone who wrestles for us is trained, normally by me, uh, and it's still called SCW Pro. But I would say the match. There is one match that I saw when I was younger. Still one of my favorite matches to this day that made me think, you know what, I think I could do this because, back in the day, wrestlers were larger than life superheroes, just massive individuals, 6'5", 275 pounds, and today I'm 6'2", 195 pounds. That's not small for a professional wrestler. But when I was in high school, I was a little bit smaller, so I gravitated towards the luchadors on WCW, the light heavyweights, the cruiserweights. So the match that really made me think, hey, maybe I could do this professional wrestling thing someday was Rey Mysterio versus Eddie Guerrero from Halloween Havoc '97, one of the classic cruiserweight matches of all time. Like I said, still one of my favorite matches to this day. But honestly, I didn't really view professional wrestling as a career until after I graduated high school. Even though I had already been wrestling on independent shows throughout my senior year of high school, it just wasn't a realistic option back then. Independents weren't what they are now. There wasn't a lot of history of people being signed from the independents to WWE or other large companies. So it really wasn't just like it wasn't a realistic dream, I would say, until one day it was. And then you had guys like CM Punk being signed and Colt Cabana being signed, and you mentioned London and Kendrick and people like that. And once they got signed and started doing their thing, it was like, wait a second, I think there is an opportunity to make a living off of this wrestling thing. And then I mean, we've all seen it over the last 20 years or so, specifically the last maybe 8 to 10 years. The independents have completely exploded, and now you don't even need to be signed to a major company to make a living off of professional wrestling, and that's a great thing for all of us who are involved in it.
Yeah, it's definitely a morale booster when you have so many outlets to get exposure from, not just one particularly big company. And I'm very glad with the way things are now and so on. And you mentioned SCW. I just got to say, shout out to one of our own, members. He's always posting stuff in our Facebook group. You know this man for sure, Marek. Albert Armageddon. Albert, if you're watching,
Oh
shout out
gosh,
to you,
yes.
man.
I've
Thanks,
known
thanks for
Albert
everything
for a
you do
long
for us.
time. What's up,
Yeah,
Albert?
yeah, we had him on our show, and he was like, "Why do you guys want to interview me?" Well, I'm like, "Okay, Albert. Well, you're a ring announcer. You're part of the industry. If it wasn't for the ring announcer, we wouldn't know who we're actually seeing in the ring. We would just see two guys or two gals going head to head, doing haymakers and whatnot. So he's pretty humble about it. But I'm like, nah, bro, you're part of the industry, man. At least in my book, at least in our book, he is.
Yeah, I've known Albert, gosh, since I was probably 18 or 19 years old. Uh, he's a cool dude. Cool dude.
Yeah. So now that you're a fan, how did you end up? How did your journey go from wrestling fan, cheering for their favorites, booing the bad guys, going to the shows, to now, you know, Marek Brave, the professional wrestler, one half of the Black and the Brave?
So I had a couple friends from high school. We were into wrestling, and there was a local arena here in the Quad Cities, just outside of Davenport, Iowa, that WWE was coming to, and we decided we wanted to get front row tickets to the show. So we were going to stay overnight at the venue, just stay up all night hanging out, so that we could be first in line to buy front row tickets to the event the following morning. And me and my friend group ended up meeting Seth and his friend group that night. It was actually the night before my 16th birthday. He's 1 month older than me, so he was 16, I was 15, just for that night. And we ended up bonding, and he was a cool dude. His friends were cool. We all became friends that night, and he introduced me, like I said, to SCW, the backyard wrestling company at the time. And so I got hooked up with them and started wrestling for them uh, when I was in high school. And eventually they moved out of the barn, got a real professional wrestling ring from High Spots, and we started putting on shows in churches and bingo halls in front of paying customers. And I thought it was pretty cool. But again, I never really viewed it as a potential professional career. But Seth always did. From the time I met him, his main goal was his only goal really was to be a professional wrestler. And he always said, I'm going to wrestle for WWE someday. And we all laughed at him. We're like, yeah, that doesn't happen. But I mean, clearly he proved us wrong. But so he went off after high school to go get trained by CM Punk in Ring of Honor. And I think a lot of people know that story, but basically he ran out of money and realized he needed to move home before he was able to even really begin the training there. And we used to chat on, this is how old I am. We used to chat on AOL Instant Messenger back in the day. So if you're a young person watching this interview, go ahead and Google that real quick. But we were talking on AIM one night, and he was like, "Man, I'm gonna come back home and kind of figure out this wrestling thing when I get back home." And I myself had been doing a little research into professional wrestling schools in the Midwest, and I found Danny Daniels, who owns AAW now, in Chicago, which is about 2.5 hours from us. And I was like, well, what if we went and got trained by Danny Daniels, and I'll go with you. We'll do it together. We'll do this thing together. So that's kind of how it all started. And when we got there, we ended up being, thankfully we were athletic, and we ended up excelling in the initial tryout. We did well I would say it was about a 2 month training program. At that point, because we had been wrestling for about a year and a half, so we knew how to do all the moves. He was really just teaching us the psychology aspect of professional wrestling. So we did that for about 2 months, and then we kind of got to it. We started following Danny to all of his indie bookings, and he got us booked on the shows. And oftentimes we would start out wrestling each other in little opening matches. They'd give us about 6 or 7 minutes, and we'd go out there and not to toot our own horns, but we'd do a good job, and we'd make some fans, and we'd impress some people, and that led to bigger bookings until eventually, after a few months, we started wrestling for Ian Rotten at IWA Mid South, which at the time in 2004, 2005 was like one of the top level independent promotions in the country. So we started wrestling on his shows. We were on shows with CM Punk and Jimmy Jacobs and Alex Shelley and Chris Hero and Claudio Castagnoli, and just the list goes on and on and on and on. So you take a couple of young 18-year-old kids and put them in that environment and give us matches with people who really know their stuff, and we're going to be able to progress at an even faster rate because they were just giving us knowledge that wasn't available to everyone at that time. So we were lucky enough to get booked on those shows, and then it just kind of spiraled from there. And every time we got an opportunity, we tried to knock it out the park. Thankfully, more often than not, we did, and it just led to more things. And I guess the rest is history.
I gotta say, Marek, that's a really awesome story, and I'm glad you guys got that opportunity. And I've seen, some of your matches, and also like you are Seth pretty much have the same build. And
Well, we
I'm
used
like,
to.
yeah, you guys,
Not anymore.
yeah, you guys had like a similar wrestling style, and I was like, you're actually one of the few what if questions that I always have. And I'm gonna ask you this next question, but I don't mean to put you on the spot by any means. That's not what we're here for. But I always ask myself, what if Marek Brave had gotten signed by WWE? What if Marek Brave and Vince had actually said, you know something? Wait, Seth has a tag team partner that wrestles just like him. Let's get him too. And I'm thinking, we would have never got the Shield. We would have probably never gotten the Shield, or the Shield would have been a 4-man group as opposed to the 3-man group that we know them as.
Well, that would have
And
been
I'm
pretty
just like
fun.
thinking, wow, like this.
Unfortunately, in May of 2007, I suffered a very severe neck injury, which kind of derailed my aspirations to make it to WWE or anything like that. It was actually in our Ring of Honor tryout match. We were in a tag team match. It was us, Black and Brave, against the Briscoe brothers. And unfortunately, there was a move that went wrong, and I landed basically on my forehead, and my body kind of came over the top, and the back of my head was pressed in between my shoulder blades, which left me in a pretty bad predicament. They ended up stretchering me out of the ring and taking me to the hospital, and I've been dealing with various injuries and things since then. I had surgery finally after a decade. Had spinal fusion surgery about three and a half years ago. So unfortunately, by the time he had got signed by WWE, I was kind of already trying to figure out what to do with my life now that wrestling wasn't going to be that. But the plan at the time was that I was supposed to be an original member of the group Age of the Fall in Ring of Honor. I don't know how much you know about that, but that was a group with Jimmy Jacobs, Seth, and then eventually Necro Butcher and a few other wrestlers as it went on. But it was supposed to be Jimmy, myself, and Seth as the original members of Age of the Fall. But due to my neck injury and the condition that my spine was in, I was unable to accept the contract that was being offered to me.
Yeah, well, I'm honestly, I'm being genuine when I say this. I'm very sorry that happened to you, because I'm thinking like, man, that Seth and Marek would have been an awesome tag team in WWE. I mean, I could have seen y'all like definitely being up there. And I'm not saying this because you're in
Well,
front of
thank
me.
you.
I could have definitely seen you guys up there with the Usos, the New Day, FTR, you know, and all the other great tag teams, because y'all had that friendship. And when you have that friendship and that chemistry, there's no stopping you. I'd even say y'all remind me of another of my favorite tag teams, who unfortunately they're no more right now, but maybe they've come together on the indies, but not on national TV. Kurt Hawkins and Zack Ryder. I'm looking to be calling
Oh,
them Kurt
great.
Hawkins and Zack Ryder. Brian Myers and Matt Cardona.
Sure.
Another group of guys met as teenagers, and now they're pretty much, you know, doing the damn thing in the ring all over the world. And
Yeah,
it's always
chemistry is
great to see that
important.
with teams.
if you have that connection with your tag team partner or even your opponent, it makes things a lot easier. You can kind of anticipate what the other person's thinking, what they're about to do, read their mind in a way. And like I said, it does make things a little bit easier when you get in there together.
Cool. So I have one last question before I turn it over to Kathy, because I know Kathy, she's itching to get some questions in as well. So you actually had an you and Seth, actually, you guys had actually had an accomplishment. I mean, you're a former AAW heavyweight champion, and AAW is a reputable, very reputable company in the Midwest, and even people outside the Midwest know of them and watch them. But you also had an accomplishment as an NWA champion. The Black and the Brave won the NWA Midwest tag team titles. Now,
Yeah.
to hold NWA gold in any shape or form is pretty much prestigious because it's the NWA. So what was going through your mind when the 1, 2, 3 was made? The ring announcer announces, and your new NWA Midwest Tag Team Champions, the Black and the Brave, and the referee hands you and your tag team partner those tag team titles. What was going through your mind at that exact moment?
Well, first of all, those belts were pretty slick. They were red leather with gold plated, very ornate, like very sharp, like wings coming off the side. Like they would legitimately stab you if you were wearing them and you like bent down to grab something off the ground. You would get stabbed in the midsection because the wings were so sharp. So you had to be careful. But if you can find those, there's pictures of us wearing them out there. If you can find them, take a look. They're pretty sharp belts. But no, to your point, I was a big. I studied a lot of wrestling when I decided I wanted to do this for a living, and I've always been a big fan of the NWA and Southern wrestling as a whole. I really like the storytelling from Southern wrestling. So I mean, guys like Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes and Tully Blanchard and Magnum TA and just so many fantastic performers from that era and from that generation and from that company. So to be able to share in a very small piece, a small part, to be able to share in that history, in that lineage of the National Wrestling Alliance, that was a big deal to me. Even then, as a young kid, I think we won those when we couldn't have been older than 19. We might have even been 18 years old at the time. So, but even being young, like we were, that was a big deal. And I went on to win the NWA Iowa State Wrestling Championship as well, which was also a great honor for me. That title has been held by Jimmy Jacobs, Abyss. I defended the title against Eric Young at one point. Shane Hollister held the belt as well. And then now I currently own that title, and we use it in SCW, and we carry on the Iowa Championship in my company. So, but yeah, to your credit, the NWA. I mean that's pretty cool. Some of the best wrestlers of all time have come through the NWA and made it what it was. So for us to hold gold for the National Wrestling Alliance, that was a pretty sweet deal.
That's cool. Yeah, if I were ever pro wrestling, I won an NWA title, I would be like, wow, like I could retire pretty much. Like I pretty much held a title from the. I wouldn't say retire, but I would be like, you know what? I'm good. I don't want to go to WAW. I mean, I held the NWA title, man. I mean, I'm good. I could, because that proves. I always say, if you win an NWA title, that pretty much proves like you're the man or the woman, and you are legit like boss in that ring. So I tip my hat off to y'all for actually making that achievement, and at such a young age too. We're normally 18 and 19 in professional wrestling. Like, it's like, okay, well, you're just getting there. But the fact that y'all got that chance, that's pretty impressive as well too.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to Kathy. Kind of she's chomping a bit to get some questions in. Kathy, go ahead. The floor is yours.
All right, thanks, Remy. Hey, Marek, how's it going today?
Hey, Kathy, doing well. I'll take my hat off just
There
for
you go.
you. I know there was a lot of hair talk on the
Yeah.
Twitter earlier today, so I just want to prove that I wear hats by choice. I'm not bald. I have a full head of hair, even at this age of
What?
35. All
There's
right,
Rob
Rob, you're
too.
looking good too. All right, good
you and
job, Rob.
you and Rob could have a hair off. There you go.
I'll probably pop it back on. I like that we're both Dolphins fans too, Rob. We could chat about that when you get your turn.
Yeah, he'll probably chat about that too. Yeah, but thanks for washing your hair. Yeah, we did talk about that on Twitter. Thanks for doing
Yes.
us a solid there.
Yeah,
I'm
gotta
not gonna
look good
ask.
for these things, man.
Yeah, right. I'm not gonna ask what you use, but if you want to let everybody know, that's up to you.
I think I don't remember something that is like a volumizer, like makes the hair bigger,
There you
whatever.
go.
I don't know. I bought it once, I liked it, I buy it every time
Yeah, whatever works, right?
now. Yeah.
So, you and Remy were talking about your career, and it was it was short lived with your neck injury and everything. But I was actually looking at a list of all the people that you've either wrestled against or wrestled with, and it's pretty impressive. Besides Seth,
Yeah.
we'll get to that in a little bit. But like some people just off the list: Matt Seidel, Eddie Kingston,
Yep.
Ricochet,
Yep.
Nigel McGuinness,
Many times.
Matt
Yep.
Cross, who is he was Son of Havoc in Lucha Underground.
Oh
Jerry
yeah. M
Lynn,
dude, he's cool. Jerry Lynn
Jerry
multiple
Lynn,
times
and
taught me a whole lot when I was younger, yeah.
the one that popped me was you tagged with Big Van Vader in
That's
2013.
true. Yeah. One of the highlights of my career, one of the funnest nights of my life. I was in a six-man tag team match, and Vader was one of my tag team partners. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was in SCW, and the
Yep.
show was called Vader Time. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So what was your fondest memories of all those people? Wrestling with them
Oh
or against them?
gosh. Like there's been plenty of names and whatnot. A lot of these guys, I came up with them. Like when Seidel and myself wrestled, it was in front of 65 people in an armory in northeast Iowa somewhere. I don't remember the exact town. And I remember at the time I was able to do shooting star presses successfully. I hadn't messed one up yet. And obviously he does them quite well, even though he had a little mess up of his own, if I remember a few months back on AEW. So I mean it happens to the best of us. What are you gonna do? But so I came up with these guys and I was wrestling Ricochet when he was 135 pounds, and it's cool to see these guys go on and move on to bigger and better things and make fantastic careers for themselves. Other guys like Jerry Lynn, he had obviously had a very good career by the time I had stepped in the ring with him, and I learned a whole lot from him, and we're still close to this day. He texts me on my birthday every year. I don't know. He must have it in a calendar somewhere because I don't have Facebook or anything like that, so I don't know where you would find out my birthday. But he texts me on my birthday every year, and that's great. And yeah, I mean, just the time frame. I always say that I was so lucky to come up in the time frame that I did in that time period because there were so many quality independent wrestlers at that time, and that was before everybody was getting snatched up and brought to bigger companies. With no shade on that, that's great for them, and those contracts are pretty nice. But I'm very thankful that that was the era that I came up in, so I could learn from guys, Chris Hero, Eddie Kingston, Nigel McGuinness, Jerry Lynn, and the list goes on and on and on. It really does. Very thankful that I was able to do that. So I don't know if I have any like super specific memories of that, but I just remember that that was a fantastic time in my life, and without a lot of those guys, I'm not sure I would have been able to be where I'm at today, where I'm passing my knowledge on to the future generations of professional wrestlers that come through the doors of the Black and Brave Wrestling Academy.
Yeah, the Vader one would have been cool to see. I almost saw him, almost got to meet him at WrestleCon, but he unfortunately passed away back in like 2018. So I was a
Yeah,
big
that
Vader
was sad.
fan.
He was great. I know I've heard some people have had poor experiences with him, but I just like to say we did not. He was fantastic for us. He was having so much fun that day that he started calling things on the fly in the match so that he could do more. Sometimes you hear about like the names that come into the shows and they're not really having a great time and they're just trying to get in, get out, get a payday. And that wasn't him. He, like I said, was calling stuff in the match so that he could do more. He ended up giving multiple Vader bombs that weren't called in the back. That wasn't part of the plan, and he just wanted to do it because he was having a great time. So I do remember one quick anecdote about Vader. We got to the show and he was like, "Oh man, I'm not feeling the best right now." And I'm like, "Well, is there anything I can do to help?" And he was like, "Well, maybe my blood sugar's low. Can you go grab me a Snickers?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, no problem. I'll go get you a Snickers from concessions." And he's like, "You better make it 2 Snickers." I'm like, "Okay, 2 Snickers. Yeah, that's fine." So I get the Snickers, come back to the locker room, give him the Snickers. He wolfs those down as fast as possible. And I'm like, "Are you feeling a little bit better?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah, a little bit better, a little bit better." "Hey, can you get me like 2 more Snickers?" And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, whatever you want, man. 2 more Snickers, I can do that for you." Go to concessions, get the Snickers, come back, give it to him, wolfs them down. "How you feeling now?" "Yeah, man, I'm really feeling it now." "All right, you ready to go out there?" "For sure. Just get me 2 more Snickers." I got him 2 more Snickers, brought him back. He ate those. He had 6 full-size Snickers bars, not minis, full-size Snickers bars. Before we went out there, had the 6-man tag. He killed it. It was fantastic. One of the funnest nights of my life. And I can say this now that he's passed away, and I'm not in danger of repercussions. But when I picked him up that day, he had brought his gear bag to the car, and he left the bag, and he had his mask out, and he was sitting there, and he's like, "Oh wait, I forgot something. I'm going to run back into the room and grab whatever it was. I don't remember." So he goes out, and I'm sitting in the car, okay, whatever, whatever. And I look down, and I see the mask, and I'm like, wow, I may never get this opportunity again. So I took the mask, I put the mask on, took a selfie real quick. I still have the photo, but I was able to take a selfie in Big Van Vader's mask, and he didn't catch me. Thankfully, I don't know what would have happened if he had, but that was
That
that's my Big Van Vader story.
that is awesome. Yeah, I started watching wrestling. I watched WCW when it was NWA WCW, like kind of
Yeah,
together. So yeah, Big Van Vader was a big one for me. Like he all his matches with Sting and his power
yeah,
bomb and all that stuff. So yeah, that's a pretty cool story. So
yeah.
were there any stickers left for the rest of the audience?
I don't know. I don't know.
Be
I
like,
didn't check.
sorry,
I didn't check.
sorry, Big Van Vader took them all. I don't think
He
they would
might
have
have got them
minded though.
all.
The fans probably wouldn't have minded, maybe. Who knows?
Whatever he needed to get through that night, and it worked too, man. Like those
Hey,
commercials, they ain't lying. Hungry? Why wait? Go eat a Snicker. You go
there
out
you
and have the
go.
match of your life.
So, you and Remy kind of talked about, Seth a little bit, and you got to wrestle against him as well as tag team. And
Oh, plenty of times.
best
Plenty of
friends
times.
always put on the best matches because they know each other so well. Like even as opponents are tag team. So, which one did you prefer? Beating him up or tagging
Oh,
against him?
yeah.
Tagging
I
with him.
always enjoyed wrestling against him. We would put on some bangers, man. We were in so many matches together. I mean, we're talking ladder matches and no roped barbed wire matches and stairway to hell matches and just so many throughout the years. Countless times we worked together. Um, it's a shame that'll probably never happen again, but we're down at the gym and we put hands on each other from time to time, but he's got to be gentle. I got this neck, man. He can't be roughing me up too much.
Yeah, I figured y'all would roughhouse a little bit. You have to.
That's what brothers do.
Yeah, I was watching some of those matches on YouTube from like the early days, and you had some pretty cool moves there. You did like a head scissor crossface. I was like, wow.
Yeah. I that's a weird story, right? So I was positive I invented that move, a head scissor crossface. I did that for the first time, I would say, in very early 2004. And then I was watching a tape that was from the same month that I invented or thought I invented. I guess I invented it if I hadn't seen it before. I was watching a tape just a couple months later, but that was from the same month that I invented that move. And I saw Jimmy Rave, rest in peace, Jimmy, do the same thing on a different show, same month. Uh, we came up with it at the same time. It was a little wild, a little spooky, but I hadn't seen it before. He hadn't seen it before. We talked about it later on in life that we had kind of came up with the exact same move at the exact same time. But yeah, man, I was young, I was healthy, I was super athletic. I was doing all the crazy stuff, the tilt-a-whirl head scissors into the cross face, and then I would do a spear where I would float over into a bridging pin. I did a shining reverse Rana. So, you jump off the knee, and instead of doing the shining wizard with the knee to the face, I did a shining reverse Rana. So I jump off their knee and then catch them in a reverse Rana. And then all the top rope stuff with the moonsaults and the lion salts and the shooting star presses and the phoenix splashes. And yeah, man, I just talking about those things makes my neck hurt now. So it's been a while.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna bring up that too. The spear into the bridge. I was like, that's pretty neat. Like you would spear
I did
somebody,
not
flip
invent that.
over. Yeah, but you would spear somebody, flip over, and then try to pin them. That was your bridge. I was like,
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I didn't invent that. That was invented by a wrestler named Scott Lost, who was one of the founding fathers of PWG back in the day. So I'll always give him credit for that. I'm not trying to claim that that was my move, but I feel like I did it pretty well.
So you did mention the shooting star press that is on YouTube. You actually
Very
fell on the
famous.
rope.
Yep.
Did you hurt yourself doing that? Because that looked painful.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think I hurt my pride more than anything. So that match is a crazy match. It's a 9-person TLC elimination match. Myself, Seth Rollins, Ricochet, Chuck Taylor, the Chris brothers, Darren Corbin, Trick Davis. I'm trying to think if there were others. Billy Rock was in that. He ended up training Ruby Soho, so that's how you may know Billy Rock. But it was all just kind of hastily put together in the back. And as we're talking about it, everyone's trying to one up each other, right? And then I'll do this, and then I'll do this. So then Ricochet says, well, I'll climb a ladder. I'll do a double moonsault off of the ladder that's inside the ring to the outside of the ring onto all of you. And then he's like, okay, now what do you got to top that? And I'm like, nothing? Nobody will ever top that ever to this day. And that match was in 2006. To this day, that is still the craziest thing I've ever seen in a wrestling ring in my entire life. That's so dangerous, but he pulled it off because he's Ricochet and he can do anything. And so he's like, what are you going to do to top it? And I'm like, I don't know. What if I did a shooting star press off the top rope to the outside through somebody laying on a table, which I had never done before, ever. I'd only done shooting star presses from the top to the inside. So I climb up to the top. Mind you, this is for IWA Mid-South, a very prestigious company. However, their wrestling ring was not the highest quality wrestling ring, if I'm putting it nicely. It was homemade. It wasn't professionally done. The ropes were very loose. So I climb up to the top. The ropes are loose. I kind of slip off at first, and then I regain my footing, and I try to rush it. And instead of jumping out, I jump straight up, which means I come straight down, and I land on my pelvis on the exposed turnbuckle. There's no padding on the turnbuckle. On the exposed turnbuckle, fall off the buckle, right smack through a table, which, by the way, in that match, you can be eliminated by going through a table. So I eliminated myself, which is also embarrassing. And I have a big scar on my leg to this day from when my leg dug into the grooves on the turnbuckle and cut it multiple times as I slid down. So there's that. But it wasn't as bad. Certainly wasn't as bad as the neck injury, and it wasn't as bad as it probably looked. I ended up wrestling 4 days later in Canada. So I wasn't hurt physically too bad. The ego was a little bruised.
Yeah,
And I never did one ever again. That was it. I retired the shooting star press from that day forward. I did some on trampolines and diving boards into swimming pools, never in a wrestling ring ever again.
well,
Had to
you
learn
could
how to work.
as you know, shameful as it was and everything, you could say you put yourself through a table.
Hey,
Like,
man, like
be proud of
it became
that.
one of the most famous wrestling botches of all time. Later on in life, I sold that footage to Ridiculousness, the MTV show. However, the episode it was going to be on was hosted by Paige, and Paige and I go back. We were on indie shows together when she was 16 years old, and she would not make fun of me. They didn't. They ended up not airing it on MTV because she wouldn't make fun of me, and that's kind of the whole shtick of the show. Is they show a clip, everybody makes fun of the person, and they move on, right? But she wouldn't make fun of me on the show, so they ended up not putting it on MTV. And I was like, man, why didn't you should have put it on MTV. You should have made fun of me. I wanted to be on the show. So, but I made some extra money off of it many years later. So it's all good. I've made my peace with that botch.
Yeah, because I saw that episode with her on it, and I was like, wait a minute, they didn't have that on there.
No,
But,
they were supposed to. They were
well,
supposed to. I definitely sold them the footage after some negotiation.
that's a pretty neat tidbit. Yeah, the whole Kathy Knight thing comes from them.
Oh, great.
I'm unofficially, officially, her sister, adopted sister, through
That's
Mama
great.
Knight. So yeah, yeah, big Paige fan. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. So you are with Seth, the Black and Brave Academy, and there's a lot of schools out there. There's like Cody Rhodes, and there's like Booker T School, Reality of Wrestling. So if you had to, somebody watching out there right now was like, I want to do, I want to go to Black and Brave. What would you tell them? Like, what would be your pitch?
Well, I think, it kind of speaks for itself. Seth is the only wrestler in the history, and I mean this, you can look it up, in the history of professional wrestling to run a professional wrestling school while being a top level WWE superstar, still active, still on the roster, still going there and getting advice from all of the best wrestlers who have ever done it, Shawn Michaels and Triple H, and whether or not you like Vince McMahon anymore, he's still the godfather of this whole professional wrestling world, and he still gives advice to Seth on a Monday. And then he shows up in Davenport, Iowa on a Tuesday, and he passes that information directly on to the next generation of professional wrestling, men and women. And we are the only school in the history of professional wrestling schools that can claim that. When Shawn Michaels had his school, he was retired. Booker T, fantastic wrestler, he's retired. Cody Rhodes, is definitely still an active wrestler for AEW, not WWE. WWE is on a different level as far as worldwide popularity. So I feel like I said, it kind of speaks for itself. If you want to be the best, you have to learn from the best. And I think it'd be very difficult to argue that right now Seth is one of, if not the best professional wrestler in the entire world.
Yeah, it's pretty cool how he keeps reinventing himself. He had the blonde streak with the Shield,
Which I
and
did
then
first. Yep.
oh, he took it from
Yep.
you.
I was doing that in 2005 when we were a tag team on the Indies. And when he got signed, they were like, you need to do something to spruce up your look. And he was like, I'll just put blonde in my hair like Merrick used to do. So he did that. And then right now with his iteration of the drip god, Seth Rollins, my final character before I was forced to retire from wrestling, I was the fashionista, Marek Brave. So I used to wear outlandish outfits and act like a complete fool on the events. And I'm not going to say he ripped me off because he's taken what I did and completely ran with it and made it its own thing and done a fantastic job with it. He's also a millionaire, so he can afford these very high-priced suits, things that I could not afford. But yeah, there's a little bit of parallel lines running through our careers a little bit. He just got paid more for his performances.
Was it what's that saying? The sincerest form of flattery.
Right? No, I am not upset in the tiniest bit, in the slightest bit. I'm not upset at all. He's a good friend of mine, and go make your money. He's doing a fantastic job. Like I said, one of, if not the best professional wrestler in the entire world. Just doing a great job representing us. And I mean, he's intelligent. He's so smart. Oh, we got something going on here.
Remy, Remy, when he's not muted, it'll echo.
Yeah, he is out there acquiring knowledge and then bringing it back to myself and my assistant coach, Matt Mayday. And then we're all three of us then passing that knowledge on to our students. And I feel like there's not a better experience. There's not a better place you can go. Another cool thing about us is you pay your fee, which is very much on par with every other wrestling school out there. And I do feel like we probably could charge more money for the training that we provide based on, Seth's name and everything. But we want to make it affordable for everyone so that if they want to learn, they want to learn the right way to do this, they can come to us. And you're not going to go into years and years of debt to do so. But you can come here, and if you graduate our 12-week program, you can continue training with us in perpetuity forever at no extra cost. We do not charge a monthly fee. There's no yearly fee. Once you pay your fee and you graduate from our program, you can use our gym to work out. You can use our ring to practice, and you can sit there. We'll watch wrestling with you. We'll critique your matches that you may have, even if you move home to wherever. You send me the video of the match, I'll tell you what I think of it. And I don't know of a lot of other schools that have that same deal. Normally, there is a monthly fee or a yearly fee to be able to continue to participate in the training, but that's not what we do. You pay your one-time fee, and that's it.
Can't beat that. So you're basically a legacy. Like you keep going. That's awesome.
Yeah, we have so many students who uh, have stuck around throughout the years. So, I mean, not only are you learning from us, but you have, people closer to your age who are out there still doing it on the independents that have been doing it for 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. And you can hop in the car with them and go to an indie show and kind of learn the ropes that way. It's a pretty good deal, and we're on our 23rd class now. I don't know the exact number, but we have somewhere between 130 and 150 graduates spread all throughout the world. So we have a nice community of people who are willing to help each other out along the way, and I think that's a pretty cool thing. We're pretty proud of that.
That's awesome. So, of course you can't teach everything, you have to pay for that. But on here, what would you tell somebody, one wrestling thing that you teach that
Well, I mean,
everybody can get for free right now?
we teach a whole lot. I guess my main bit of advice would be before starting a wrestling school, get yourself in a little bit of shape. It's going to be a rigorous training program. At least ours is. I would hope most schools would do the same. Um, while wrestling may not be a legitimate sport, so to speak, it doesn't follow the same rules as sports do. There's no true winners and true losers. It's not a true competition. While it may not be a sport, you do have to have some level of athleticism to do it and to excel at it. So get yourself in shape. And then when you do get an opportunity to train, understand that you need to be respectful. Keep your ears open, keep your mouth shut, and really soak in all of the advice that anyone gives you, whether it's good advice or bad advice, because you can learn from the good advice, obviously, but you also can learn from the bad advice. You can learn what not to do from the bad advice. So just be a sponge, take it all in.
So of course, you learn wrestling, but you also learn life lessons too. And we've had people, like from Cody Rhodes' school. I asked them the same question, like, what life lesson did you take from wrestling school? And we've had people say, like, slow down, and that applies to wrestling and in life too. So,
Yeah.
like, what kind of life lessons would you give, at the academy as well?
Are you allowed to curse on here?
Yes.
Okay. One of the things that I always tell people is occasionally in life, whether it's in the wrestling business or at a job you may have, or in a relationship that you're in, or at college, or this, that, and the other, right? Sometimes you're going to have to eat a shit sandwich and learn to like the taste because not everything's going to go your way. But you can't fly off the handle and cause a big scene and offend everyone around you and essentially get a reputation for being somebody who's not easy to work with just because one thing didn't go your way. One little thing didn't go your way. And that's not to say you should let people walk all over you and do whatever they want. You shouldn't stick up for yourself because you should. But you need to learn when and where and pick and choose your battles, right? You need to learn when to fight back. And at the end of the day, if it's not that big of a deal, if it's something that you can go and assess the situation later and then figure out the best way to respond and be level headed about it, that's going to get you a lot further than, like I said, flying off the handle, going crazy, screaming, yelling, this, that, and the other, right? So we like to say it a lot. You got to eat a shit sandwich. Sometimes you eat a shit sandwich and learn to like the taste, which means just settle it down, take a breather, figure out how to respond. And that's life, man. That's how it is.
Yeah, we're in such a instant, everything's so instant. This whole world's instant, and it's like, calm down, settle your tea kettle, like,
No.
think about it and then come back later,
No.
like really good anger management or stuff like, because yeah, it's not, some stuff won't go your way. That's just how life is. And
Yeah.
it's not going to go your way in the wrestling ring either, 9 out of 10 times, or that one time you'll get it.
Yep. You got to learn how to adjust on the fly in wrestling and in life.
Yep, that's pretty good. So I saw a picture on Twitter, and the added benefit of, correct me if I'm wrong, but Becky is going to Black and Brave too, on some, sitting on some classes. So
Yep.
not only do
Yep.
you get you and Seth, you get Becky too in some of the
Yep.
classes.
Yep, Becky's there, and she likes to give her input, and she's always there for. We do little like Q&A sessions after every single training session that we do, because we feel like that's very important. You can learn a lot about the business by being in the ring and actually wrestling, but you can learn just as much by picking the brains of people who know more than you and people who have been in the business longer than you. And obviously, she's one of the most famous, most accomplished professional wrestlers in the entire world. So we value her opinion. The students value her opinion, and we encourage her to give her opinion at any stage of the training. So she's there quite a bit. She uses the gym to work out, and then when we're doing these little Q&As at the end, she's giving her input. And a lot of people very specifically ask her about her promos because they very much like her promos and her character work, and she has spent a lot of time working on that and developing that. So she's a great resource and a great asset. So like you said, not only are you learning from Seth, who's at the top of his game, but you can also learn from Becky, who's at the top of her game. Man, what a great power couple right there, huh?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they're at their prime right now, definitely. And Becky's such a genius, like, for
I need to
everything.
go back and redo my pitch. I gotta redo that whole thing, man. You get to learn from two of the best, right?
Yeah. And if you too, you're one of the best.
Thank
Got to
you.
give yourself
Thank,
credit too.
thank you.
Yeah, but that's a real treat. When Becky sits on those classes, do they get, students get kind of shell shocked? They're like, "Oh my God, that's Becky."
Yes, uh, for sure. As you know, with Seth, yes, but I feel like they know what they're getting when like they know okay Seth's going to be there, right? But we never say oh and also Becky will be there. She will be there, but we don't use it as a marketing tool or anything like that. And we started the school before they got together, so it's a more recent thing over the last couple of years. But when she shows up, you see everyone just, real quick, stand at attention and hold their breaths, and she has a commanding presence. She is the man. Or are we allowed to say that anymore? I don't know.
I think
Ric
so.
Flair's got his own things going on, right?
Yeah, I think her merch is still on WWE shop, so there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's got a mind. Like, not does she wrestles really well? Her promos are really well. Like, she's just a wrestling genius, and Seth too. So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah, those are good people to be around, and we bounce ideas off each other, and it's funny, right? Seth's still very much invested in the independent company SCW that I run. So we'll be talking about the storylines, and he'll be like, "Oh, what if you did this, and what if you did that?" And I'm like, it's kind of wild that this multi-time WWE champion wrestling in every state, every country in the world still wants to know what we're doing in our independent promotion in Eastern Iowa. He's always been like that, though. He's never forgotten his roots. He still very much cares about everybody that he's met along the way. He's just a fantastic dude.
Yeah, Becky's like that too. Like, they stay humble.
Yeah, very much so. You'd
Yeah,
never know, like, if you didn't, if you weren't a wrestling fan, you'd never know that they're, famous celebrities and millionaires and yada yada yada, right? They show up in their sweatpants and their sweatshirts, and they get to work and they work out and get down and dirty, and they like to shoot the shit and have a good time and tell jokes, and they're just great people.
yeah, good times. I've met Becky 3 times in like less
Oh,
than a
great.
year, and it's cool. Like, she's met so many people, but she remembers people. Like, she remembered me. Of course, I mean, I did meet her 3 times in less than a year, but but she's like, yeah, like, there she is. Like, I was coming for a photo op, and she remembers people, and that's pretty neat. Like, that's part of like still being humble and everything, and it's awesome.
I wish I had a memory like that.
Yeah, right.
Too many
it's
chair
almost
shots.
it's almost like she never forgets a face, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, silly question time. Seth
I
has a
love
coffee
silly
shop.
questions.
Seth has a coffee shop. So
Yep.
does the academy get like free coffee every now and then?
No, we don't. Well, what's going on with that? I need to put that in my contract. A free coffee every day. No, I do not get free coffee from the coffee shop, which is literally next door, directly next door. We share a wall. Uh, but no, I don't get free coffee. But I also try to monitor how much caffeine I intake. So by the time we're at training, I've already had a couple cups of coffee. I try to cut it at 2 cups of coffee a day, and then I switch over. This is how old I am, right? I've switched over to decaf. I have 2 cups of regular coffee, and I've switched to decaf beyond that. So I'm limiting my caffeine intake. So no free coffee for me.
What about the students? They don't get free coffee either.
No, but they love to spend what little money they have over at the coffee shop every day. And I guess this is bad marketing, bad advertising for his coffee shop, but I'm always like, do you know how much money you would save if you just brewed your coffee at home? Fatherly figure, Marek Brave right here.
Well, it's kind of marketing 101. Have a coffee shop next to a wrestling school. There you go.
I mean, they make a good chunk of change off the students. They really do.
Yep. There you go. Marketing 101. So, you were on a show called Night Fight on the History
Sure
Channel,
was.
which I
Yeah.
saw. I saw a little bit of like a preview of it. It looked pretty cool. So, for people that didn't get to watch it, what was that about?
So it was an armored combat fighting show where they dressed us in medieval suits, which weighed 80 pounds apiece, head to toe, helmets, gauntlets on the hands. Each of us got to choose a weapon of choice. I chose a battle axe. Some people had short swords, long swords, whatever it may be. And it was not scripted. It was not like professional wrestling. It was 100% legitimate, 100% real. And unfortunately for me, on my episode of the 6 competitors, I was the only one who had never done it before. Everybody else had at least 2 years of experience, all the way up to 20 years of experience, which is dangerous, right? You're encouraged, and the idea of the show is to hit people with weapons as hard as you can, trying to, knock them down, knock them out, get them out of the competition. And I'd never done it before. Not a single second of armored combat fighting before they put me in a bullpen with a gravel pit with these professionals. I always say that it would have been like being dropped off at the Super Bowl and they give you a helmet. And they're like, have fun, good luck. And then you have to go play, tight end or something against the best football players in the world. So I did not win. I didn't win my episode, but I had a good time. I would absolutely do it again if there were to be a season 2. I don't know if that's in the cards, but I would love to do it again. Christian was one of the hosts on the show. He was a great dude. We got to have lunch together and chat about the school and wrestling and different things. So it was a fun time. Wouldn't trade it for anything, and I would absolutely do it again. But it was crazy. Like, the helmet, by the way, is just like smashed up, like right on your face, so you can't breathe. And then you're in there doing the most physical thing you've ever done in your life while wearing an 80-pound suit of armor. And so at the end of each round, your helmet's clipped into your breastplate and your back plate. And so at the end of each round, like, a production assistant would run over and unclip your helmet and take it off. And like, as soon as the round would end, I'd be like, get over here, take the helmet off, please. I'm going to throw up inside this helmet. And you don't want to throw up in a helmet that's completely pressed against your face, because there's nowhere for that vomit to go. That's just going to end up all over you. So that was my main goal. My original main goal was don't get killed. That didn't happen. Success. And then my secondary main goal after arriving was do not vomit in the helmet. And I didn't vomit in the helmet. So for me, that was a very successful trip, a very successful experience.
That's pretty cool. Now, did the helmet hurt your neck at all?
No, I don't know. Maybe it did, but I had a lot of adrenaline. I was trying not to die, and I didn't. So again, goal accomplished. But the helmet didn't hurt the neck. Everything else hurt, though. People hitting you with axes and swords and punching you in the face with gauntlets and yeah. So it was very physical, very strenuous, very labor intensive. But again, it was a blast. I played high school football and then went on to professional wrestling. So I was craving that sort of like, that aggressive, like, that outlet to get all my aggression out. And that was a good way to do it.
So how did they pick you if you didn't have experience?
They sent me a DM on Twitter.
Wow.
They were like, hey, have you ever heard of this? I was like, no. And they were like, would you like to do it? And I was like, yeah, I think so. And then I went through an audition process with some producers based in LA, and they liked me. They thought I had a good personality, and I'm not sure they knew what professional wrestling was, because they said it was a plus that I had combat experience, and I was like, it's more like ballet or dancing experience, but there is some a good amount of physical aggression involved in professional wrestling. So I went out there, and that's the thing. When I got out there, I didn't know. I'm like, is it real? Is it not real? Is it scripted? Is it planned? It was not planned. So much so that we had to sign a contract that said if we rigged it, that we could face like tens of thousands of dollars of fines, possible jail time, which apparently you have to sign a contract every time you do any sort of game show where there's a prize at the end. There's like very strict laws for that. I never knew, but so there was nothing fake about it. There was people hitting me very hard.
Yeah, they tend to do like reality shows. I had met Paige at Access, and they were like, "Sign this. You might be on Total Divas. Sign your life
That's
away."
cool.
I wasn't on
That's
it,
cool.
but we had to sign it just in case.
I was a production assistant for Total Divas for one day.
Really?
Yeah, that's another fun thing I got to do once out at WrestleMania 31. One of my friends was an assistant on that show, a high level one, and she asked if I would want to come and be a PA for a day and hang out with all the girls, and that was a blast because I'm a huge fan of Total Divas. I love that show.
Me too. I'm sad to see it go. That and Total Bellas. I'd watch them all the time.
I don't like it. They'll have to bring it back someday.
Yeah, bring it back, E.
Come on.
I used to watch it from season 1 till it went off the air.
I never missed an episode.
Yeah,
I'm not joking. I was a huge fan. That was appointment viewing for me every week.
Yep. I still have some on my DVR. I kept a bunch of episodes. I still have
That's
them.
great.
So in doing research, I listened to a couple of podcasts you were on, and there was one of them you wanted to be brought back to talk about Saturday Night Live.
Oh,
So,
I don't even recall that. But yes, I'm a big.
yeah. So we're gonna talk about that now. You're a big
Well, I'm a
SNL
big
fan.
SNL fan. I'm a big SNL fan. You know, when I was younger, that was like the heyday, at least in my opinion, of SNL with Chris Farley and Adam Sandler and Tim Meadows and all those guys. And I still enjoy it to this day. I don't know if it's the same quality of product as it was, but I love sketch comedy altogether. So that's what I like to do after my independent shows are over on Saturday nights. I like to get everything packed away, and then I come home and I bring up the DVR and I fall asleep watching the latest SNL.
Awesome. I haven't been watching it. It's been a few years, but I would watch it with like when Will Ferrell was there, Tim
Oh God,
Meadows,
yeah, the best.
Sherry O'Terry,
Yeah,
Molly Shannon, and then
absolutely.
WWE would do a couple of episodes. The Rock's been
Hmm.
on it a few times. Those were
Yeah.
pretty awesome episodes. But I'm as old as when In Living Color was there. Like I was in In Living Color
Oh,
for
I
the first
remember In
time.
Living Color as well.
Yeah.
I was just talking about that with my assistant trainer on Thursday. How like it makes you feel old that you can remember when Jim Carrey was on In Living Color, and then now he's 60 years old. Like what? What? When did that happen? What's going on?
I still have a Homie Don't Play That shirt.
Ah, that's
Big
great.
old clown picture, and it says "Homie, don't play that."
I love that.
And then like John Leguizamo was on there, and I remember he would do like a skit where he couldn't say regularly. He was like a gang member or something, and he's like, "We will
Yeah.
now return you to your regularly scheduled program."
I'm a big fan of sketch comedy. Right now, I'm obsessed with I Think You Should Leave on Netflix. If you've never seen it and you just like super awkward sketch comedy with outlandish, out there, concepts, that is the show for you. I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson on Netflix. There's 2 seasons. I think they're making a third right now. It's absurd.
Yeah, I would watch Mad TV was another one. I loved
Oh, yeah.
Mad TV. And then for the kids, like on Nickelodeon, they had all of that, which was like a
All
little
that, yeah.
mini SNL. And man, I used to love just watching that on a Saturday night, just watching all that stuff. It was
We've been
awesome.
watching Keenan Thompson do his thing for 30 years.
Yes. Yep. So before I turn it over to Rob, you have a few things. Not only do you have Black and Brave Academy, you have there's a Black and Brave clothing line,
Yep.
and you also have you're talking about SCW Pro. They actually have a show coming up tomorrow, this Saturday.
Yeah. We have so many shows coming up. I just booked more today at a summertime venue. We do outdoor shows. So, spoiler for anyone who's tuning in right now, we're going to be back at the Beer Stube in Moline, Illinois. But yeah, we have a show tomorrow, Heartbreak at the Walcott Coliseum in Walcott, Iowa. We got a lot of great matches from guys and gals who have graduated from the Black and Brave Wrestling Academy. So it'll be a great time. We keep tickets nice and cheap so that the whole family can afford to come. $10 seats. Come on out. It's a great time.
There's also another one that caught my eye. April the 9th. Scotty Too Hottie's going to be there.
Yep,
At that
absolutely.
show. So
Yeah,
that's
I
pretty cool.
actually coached down at NXT for a week a few years back, and Scotty was the first coach that I was alongside with while I was there. And we bonded and we became friends, and we ended up following each other on Twitter and chatting periodically. And when he became available, when he decided to resign from WWE and get back to wrestling, I hit him up and I was like, "Hey man, I got to bring you to Iowa." So April 9th it is. He'll be coming to the Walcott Coliseum in Walcott, Iowa, and he'll be wrestling for us, and we're very, very excited for that.
Awesome. So before I turn it over to Rob, hope you have great shows. Tomorrow and April 9th. And wish you continued success on Black and Brave Academy. And it was a pleasure meeting you. And this interview was awesome. And I'll turn it over to Rob.
Thank you, Kathy.
All right, sweet. Thank you, Kathy. So what's going on, man? How's everything going your way tonight, man?
I'm doing well, Rob. Hey, where are you from?
Delaware.
Wow, you have a Southern accent.
I guess I am technically the south of that Mason-Dixon line, so I guess that is south, right?
Is Delaware south of that? Is it?
I think it's half of it. Half is and half isn't. Something like
I
that.
took
I don't
a
know.
I, I took a vacation on the Delaware coast once, and it was lovely. I really liked Delaware. It was nice. Who knew Delaware could be so nice?
Yeah, my family, we have a beach house in Rehoboth, and it's real nice out there. It's like right by the boardwalk. You know, you can go out and you can like ride a bike or walk to the boardwalk, and yeah, it's
Yeah,
good to go.
that sounds nice. No beaches in Iowa.
Oh yeah, I know, man. That stinks. That stinks. Cause I'll like go over to Baltimore and stuff, and people ask, where you at? It's like, oh yeah, Delaware and stuff. They're like, oh, you're over by Maryland, Eastern Shore and stuff, man. Oh, you got beaches, and I'm like, oh yeah. I take beaches for granted a lot of times, Like a lot of people don't have them, so I'm like, oh man, yeah.
We have the Mississippi River, but you don't want to swim in that.
Oh, okay. I haven't been across the Mississippi River, man. That's the farthest in the states I've been up to is right up to it, man. I haven't been across it yet. I
Oh
need to
wow.
change that though.
Yeah, come on out.
Yeah, man, I've been up north, I've been down south, man. I've been like to the Keys, man, where I can look out and like, oh man, there's Cuba. I've been down that far, so yeah, I need to get out west. I need to get out west because it's a little cold out here. I need to get out there like Arizona or something. I need to get in a tropical climate where it's a nice, all year
I feel
round,
that.
and I don't have to shovel snow. And yeah,
Hmm.
that's some BS right there.
I feel that.
So I do want to ask, before I ask a couple Dolphin questions and stuff, man, I want to ask like one or two wrestling questions before we start getting into that, man. Do you have any new classes coming up for anybody interested, in joining any classes? Is there any new
Oh
signups
gosh,
coming
yeah.
up?
We have we're on our 23rd class now. 2022 is all filled up. 2023 is all filled up. We're going to start announcing 2024 signups here soon, which doesn't even feel like that's I feel like 2020 was just like 2 days ago. We're already in 2022. I'm going to be taking applications for 2024. It's like my whole life's going to be planned out, which is a good thing. I'm not complaining. But yeah, man, we got a lot of people coming through. A lot of international students from England and Ireland and Brazil and Poland and all over the place. So we're excited to welcome them.
I remember when I was in school, a kid from Ireland came over. He was an exchange student, and I remember people were asking about his accent and stuff. And I remember somebody going like, "What does our accent sound like to you? What's it sound like?" And he just looked straight in the face and was just like, "Sounds like you're whining." And oh man, it was just like, yeah, he was just like, yeah, he was blunt like on everything, man. Like, yeah, he didn't care. It was like that's how we are down there. It was like, oh, all right, cool.
Yeah.
That was pretty awesome. Now, Kathy brought it up about Scotty Too Hottie and stuff coming, man. I wanted to ask about that, but I also wanted to ask, can you do the worm? Are you able to do the worm? And
I
have you ever
cannot
been
do the
able
worm.
to?
No,
Oh, I can't either.
I feel like I've been blessed to be skilled in a lot of areas in life, but the ability to do the worm was something that I was never blessed with. So no worm for me.
Okay, okay. Man, I don't blame you, man. I couldn't do it. I've tried many a times trying to do the worm, and I've hurt myself. I was like, ooh.
Yeah, it looks like it could be painful if you didn't know how to do it correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Just yeah. Make sure you wear like a support strap or whatever.
Yeah.
All right. So I was doing a little research and I found out, like, the hat you're wearing, man, you're a fellow Dolphins fan. I mean, I love talking about the Dolphins and stuff. And I got to ask, man, how do you feel about Tua, being the quarterback, man? Personally, I think he's all right. I like him. I feel he's like a Chad Pennington type. Like,
Yeah.
he'll go out there. He'll go out there, do the thing. He's smart. He won't lose the game. Now, would I rather have, like, Joey Burrow or, oh, yeah, but, I like Tua. Tua.
Well,
I don't know why
I
all the
think
hate on him. Plus, they got
I
that
think
awful line. Ugh.
yeah. Offensive line's been poor. He hasn't had a lot of weapons around him. They got him Jalen Waddle, and that helped out. Waddle had a great rookie year. But we need more. We need another wide receiver or two. We need a good offensive line. We need a running game. And what we really need is a coach who supports him. Because I was a big fan of Brian Flores, and then he gets fired, and all these stories start coming out about how he treated the people around him and how he treated Tua. and he wasn't a big fan of Tua, and he didn't support Tua. And then, Tua had to play this entire last year with the rumors of Deshaun Watson being traded to Miami hanging over his head. And it's like, man, could they have done a worse job at trying to develop a first round quarterback through his first 2 seasons in the NFL? So I think the Dolphins will hire a offensive minded head coach here, whether it's Mike McDaniel, and maybe they already hired someone. I haven't been on my phone throughout this interview, but whether it's Mike McDaniel or Kellen Moore, and his number one job will be to groom Tua and turn him into a top tier upper echelon quarterback. And if it happens, fantastic. And if it doesn't happen, we have 2 first round picks in the 2023 draft. We can replace him with somebody else. And it wouldn't be the first time we've had to do that. We're Dolphins fans. We know.
Exactly. Yeah, we could do it again. Done it once, you can do it again, man.
Yep.
Oh man. So going into the season, man. Hopefully, after the football season, man. Are you hoping they start addressing some of that like offensive line? Man, we gotta tighten this up, man, because you can't have Tua back there, Hut, and it's like Hut, and the second the ball's in his hand, he's screaming for his life. You know what I mean? You got these giant dudes coming to hurt him, man. It's like, oh, you gotta do something.
Yeah, I think Miami's in a good spot with being able to address a lot of issues. They have the most cap space in the league going into the offseason, so they'll be able to purchase some quality talent. They also have 8 draft picks in the current draft, and then, like I said, 2 first-round draft picks the following year. So I think it is a quality destination for potential head coaching candidates, and I think they'll be able to, from my mouth to God's ears, they'll be able to turn it around in short order. But we've been saying that since Dan Marino retired, so we'll see if it ever happens.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Dan Marino, man, he's hard to replace. Plus, he was an Ace Ventura, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
Oh, man, how can you beat that?
He tweeted at me once. Dan Marino tweeted at me once. He said, "Alrighty then." That was the whole tweet. I lost my mind. It was the best day of my life.
Oh, yeah, that would be awesome, man. Or if he sent, I get him to sign some isotoners for me or something, something like that. Oh, that would be awesome. Oh man, yeah, it's Jim Carrey and stuff, man, sketch comp. Yeah, y'all were, it brought me memories and stuff, man. There's one in Living Color one. Chris Rock used to come on in Living Color, and he would always go up like he went to a gas station once, and he'd be like, "I want a hot dog. How much is a hot dog?" They'd be like 99 cents, but 99 cents. Good Lord, that's a lot of money.
Good
How about if I
Lord,
give you?
that's a lot of money.
Yeah, he'd be like, "How about if I give you 23 cents? You let me fill the bun up with relish?" And they'd be like, "What?" I was like, "Oh man, okay, all right, yeah." I used to like that one. That was a good one.
Yeah, man, that was a good show. I did it. Again, big sketch comedy fan.
Yeah, Mad TV was always good. I liked when they did. There's one they did it with The Sopranos. It was like if The Sopranos was on like Ion TV, where it's like heavily edited and stuff.
Yeah.
It was like every 5 seconds he was like, "What the?" It was all like that, just cutting up. It was like it was like a 5-minute episode, man. It was like next week. I was like, oh yeah, that was great. Oh man. Yeah, I haven't seen. I need to check out that one you were mentioning earlier on Netflix. I haven't seen that one yet.
It's absurd. It's out there, but it's good. I think you should leave. It's great.
Yeah. Now I am waiting for Jackass 4 to come out, man. Whenever that comes out, I'm definitely. I gotta check it out because I watched it when I was younger, and I was like, yeah, these guys are. Oh, okay. I got
grew up on that for sure.
Oh yeah, that's right. So. Speaking on that, man, are there any new movies and TV shows you're into right now? Because I always get stuck watching the same stuff, like comfort shows, man. Like, I'm always trying to look for something new.
I'm interested to check out the Kanye West documentary on Netflix that's coming out. When I was younger, I was a fan of Kanye West's music. Not so much anymore. He doesn't really put out like music that I'm interested in anymore. It's not as commercially accessible. So I mean, that's fine. He's an artist. He can do whatever he wants. But I find him to be an intriguing individual. Not to say that I always agree with what he does or the things he says. But I like to learn how successful people tick, what's going on in their mind. So I'm excited to watch that. Tonight, after we're done with this interview, I'm going to pop on Nightmare Alley on Hulu. Which was the new, I believe, Guillermo del Toro movie with Bradley Cooper. So I'm a big Guillermo del Toro fan. from back in the day. Pan's Labyrinth was a fantastic movie that I liked, 15, 16 years ago. So I'm going to check that out. As far as other movies, I'm not really up to date on what's going on. Maybe the new Batman looks kind of cool just because I'm a kind of a Batman fan, have been since I was a little kid, and we had the Michael Keaton movies. Batman Returns was a fantastic video game on the Super Nintendo. But yeah, no, I just kind of pop on whatever documentary I can find a lot of times. I just really like to learn new things and acquire knowledge. And so we'll see.
I do that too, man. I'll put on some documentaries and just learn something. Some of them, like, oh wow, that's pretty cool. You know what I mean? Like I watched one as a true crime one. It was about the pizza delivery guy that had the bomb strapped to his neck.
Oh yeah,
He had to go rob a bank. Yeah, yeah. And then I was like, it was like I was like, oh yeah, I heard about that. And then it was like I watched that episode. I was like, well, I didn't know about that and that and that and that. Oh man, it's pretty cool. Okay, here we go.
There's a documentary on Hulu about the Starved Rock murders. The Starved Rock is a state park about 90 minutes from where I live, in LaSalle, Peru, Illinois. And I watched the whole thing, maybe 2 weeks before my current class started. And, it's a good documentary, really good. Again, a true crime documentary. And then I'm coaching my class or whatever. And for some reason that came up and I started talking about it. And one of my students in my current class was like, oh, yeah, my uncle directed that. And I was like, wait, what? He's like, yeah, my uncle directed that. And the director's in the whole thing doing the interviews and talking and everything like that. And I was like, wow, what a small world. But yeah, one of my current students' uncle was the director of this documentary on Hulu that I randomly watched just a couple weeks before his class started. Again, small world.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, man. We were one time we were doing an interview on here, and one of our guests was like, "Yeah, my shoot job is I go scout locations for movies and stuff for Hollywood." I was like, "For real, yeah." And he told us a story about how he almost like killed Tom Cruise and stuff on accident and all this stuff. And he was like, "Oh, it was like it was cold out there doing one of those heater things, and when he started up, flame just shoots out the back, and right when he did that, Tom Cruise was coming by or whatever, and just missed him." And it was like, man, if that flame hit him, he would have went up. And he said it was just slow motion. He was like, oh, I could just see it right before my eyes, and just I killed, America's, favorite, actor. And he's disfigured for life because of this guy and all this stuff. And I was like, oh man, that's great. Oh man.
That would have been unfortunate, but that sounds like a fun job. I wouldn't mind trying my hand at that.
Yeah. Now I used to watch the show like Ghost Hunters and stuff like that, and 'cause I used to like watching that. I like Supernat watching it, but I can never deal with it. Now I kind of call shenanigans on their show now because they actually went to a place 5 minutes from my house, and they were talking about the road over there. Oh, this is Dead Man's Curve, and it's all this, and I'm like, I literally drive on that road every day. Like, yeah, no, they're like everything on there. They're like this. I'm like, okay, I might some of this I got to call shenanigans on this. Like, no, okay, yeah. Yeah, I forget what it was called. It was called the Amish Barn House or something out in Delaware. So I was like, all right, whatever. I was like, man, I want to know what's going on. And I was like,
that's funny.
Yeah. So now, before I pass it on back to Remy, man, I do want to ask, traveling, for wrestling and all that, especially, Midwest, man. Do you have any funny travel stories, man? Like, have you ever come across a Sasquatch or, something like that, man? Oh, man.
Funny you mentioned. So I'm driving home late at night, probably 2, 3, 4 in the morning, something like that. And I got a car full of people who are dozing off on me. I'm driving. Everybody's dozing off. That's a violation. That violates an unwritten rule of the road. You cannot sleep while the other person's driving. You got to keep them awake. Banter and conversation. They were not doing that. And I'm driving, and like maybe 15 minutes from home after like a 3-4 hour drive. So like right at the tail end. And I see something running across the road in front of me. And I'm so sleep deprived that my first reaction, and I yell it out loud, is Bigfoot! Because I genuinely think I'm seeing a Sasquatch in front of me. Unfortunately, it was not a Sasquatch. It was a deer, and I hit it going 65, and I totaled my car 15 minutes from my house, and I was very, very angry. The deer was fine. It got up and ran off, like deers tend to do, or deer tend to do. But not a Sasquatch, but I'm kind of into all those cryptid things, Sasquatch and Chupacabra and Loch Ness Monster and all that. So I wouldn't even been mad if it was a Sasquatch. I'd been like, oh man, well, I totaled my car, but I found out that Bigfoots were real. So
There you go. That's cool.
it
Hey,
wasn't
one
to be.
time, I mean, I seen a UFO one time. I was at Dover Downs, the internet, during a NASCAR race one time, and it came down and it sent me a message in big bright yellow letters. It told me I was going to have a good year. I was like, all right, you know what I mean? The
That's
craziest
good.
thing was it was an awful year though, and I was the only one freaking out about it. You know what I mean? I'm like, y'all don't see that? You know what I mean? That thing was just like, yeah. I was like,
That's
whatever. All
good.
right.
That's a good bit. I'm gonna steal that. I'm gonna steal that bit.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, before passing on to Remy, I want to say, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on chat with us. I definitely had a blast. I wish nothing but the positive things for you, your family, your school, and all that good stuff, man.
Thank you very much, Rob. It was fun chatting with you.
Marek, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know I probably sound like an echo over here, but I have to move to another part of my room because the reception over there was kind of bad. But I just have to say, thank you very much for taking time out. I honestly didn't even think you were going to come off. I know you're a busy man with wrestling school and whatnot, but I really and truly appreciate you
Yeah, thanks
taking
for.
time out. I know a lot of people were actually like excited to know that you were on our show because we actually had one young lady, the commentator, Ella J, for CCW over in Delaware with Rob Refs, and she was like, "Oh wow, the Black and the Brave," and I was like, "Snap, she knows him too." I didn't even mention like Black and Brave. I didn't even mention Seth Rollins. She was like, "Wow, the Black and Brave, nice." And
Awesome.
even people all over in France. I told Albert Armageddon, like, Albert, guess what I have on the show? And then I told him, look at our schedule. And he's like, oh, that's an excellent choice. So you're a pretty popular man. But
Well, just out here doing my thing. I guess I've just been at it a long while, so people figure out who you are after a certain amount of time. So I was happy to come on, and it was fun chatting with you three, and I wish you guys nothing but the best with this podcast moving forward. So thanks for having me.
yeah, I just got to ask one more question though.
Sure.
You've been training a lot of impressive students. I noticed that the Nightmare Factory, and I'm not trying to start anything. The Nightmare Factory, they have a student showcase, and I'm a huge fan of student showcases because you see the hard work that they put in after how many weeks, how many months of training, and they get to show it before they head to the big time. Are there or will there be are there any intentions to have a Black and Brave student showcase in the near future or student showcases?
So there were talks to do that when we first opened up the school. Ultimately, we decided against it, mainly because I run an independent promotion myself. So many of the students who graduate come and wrestle for me after they graduate. So that's their showcase. And more so than it just being a showcase, they get to have characters and storylines and different things, and they get to move forward. So it's not just one show; it's multiple shows every month, months on end, years on end. And like I said, we have students who graduated 7, 8 years ago who are still wrestling for me monthly, in addition to doing their bookings throughout the country. So we decided against a student showcase. But who knows? It might be something that we revisit in the future if people want to see it.
Awesome, cool. Well, I'll definitely be checking out SCW. I already heard of them through Albert, so I'll definitely be paying attention to it because, like I said, every time I see somebody impressive, I'm like, where they come from? Like, what's the deal? And then I see Black and Brave wrestling. I'm like, oh wow, they're definitely doing it big, man. Like I even saw your guy Nathan Fraser. He was on AEW, and then he had a classic match, which was his first match that I remember. It was on NXT UK, and I'm like, wow, that's it. Seth and Marek, they're definitely doing a great job there. But I just have to say, on behalf of myself, Kathy Knight, and Rob Bates, thank you very much. And also thank you for all the matches and memories that you've given us fans in professional wrestling. And I wish you nothing but the best with your professional wrestling school and all that. And hopefully we'll be able to have more of your students on here real soon. We've been trying to get Mr. a certain young man by the name of Trip Jordy on here, but he's been rather busy. So hopefully one day.
You'll
But
get
with
him.
that
You'll get
being
him.
said, yeah, we're definitely keeping our fingers crossed here. But with that being said, before we close the showdown, where can fans find you on social media when they want to find out when the next SCW show is, or if they want to finally take that next step and become professional wrestlers and study at the Black and Brave Wrestling School? Where can they find
Yeah,
y'all at?
you can find me personally on Twitter and Instagram at mbrave13. You can find Black and Brave on Twitter at Black and Brave, on Instagram at Black and Brave Wrestling, and you can find SCW on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, SCW Pro. Nice and easy.
Awesome. So y'all heard the man gave all the social media links. So definitely go ahead and check them out. You will not be bored. Trust me, you will be highly impressed, like we are here. So definitely check out SCW. In my opinion, if you ask me, they're the coolest thing in Iowa since sliced bread, hottest thing since cooked food. So y'all definitely check them out. But with that being said, it's about time for us to shut the show down. My eyelids are getting a bit heavy and my stomach is grumbling, so I mean it's time for a bit of a nap and a snap. Maybe not in that order. But before I do that, Kathy Knight, where can fans find you on social media when they want to, talk wrestling, all things Becky Lynch and Paige? We know you're a huge fan of theirs as well. They're pretty great wrestlers. And also, where can they find you when they want to check out your YouTube edits and whatnot?
So I'm on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, and Discord, all at BLUE70517.
Cool. Rob Bass, the Sean Spence to my Burton Guster, the Bubba Ray to my Devon. And hey, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and say it. No offense, Marek. The Seth Rollins to my Marek Brave. Where can fans find you on social media when they want to find out where your next appearances, purchase Rob Bass merchandise, and where can bookers and promoters find you when they want to book you for their shows?
All right, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at or Twitch at Rob_Base82, and then Facebook, YouTube, Rob Base.
Awesome. If you want to be on social media and not have anything cool or interesting to say, but who knows, I try. Maybe you'll get lucky one day. You can find me on Twitter at the Remy Blue. You can also find me on Facebook under Remy Blue. And you can also find our podcast on social media. We're on Twitter and Instagram at Ringside Society. We're on Twitch, Ringside Society 2019. We're still on Block Talk Radio. We haven't gotten rid of them yet. Maybe we'll stay, maybe we won't. We're also on Spotify. And we also have a Teespring store where we sell official Ringside Society merchandise. So definitely go ahead and check us out. All proceeds go back into keeping the show afloat. And we also have a YouTube page and a Facebook group. Now, our YouTube page is where we have a lot of our impressive interviews, like this one, like our interview with Katie Hebner, Michael Martinez, etc., etc. So definitely check us out. Go on YouTube, type in Ringside Society, and when you see that sweet OMG dark blue and light blue yin yang sign with the blue flames around it, that's when you'll know it's us. Make sure you subscribe to all our videos because you don't want to miss a thing, like Aerosmith in 1998. But with that being said, once again, to those of y'all who listen to us live, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. We know we're not the best, but we really appreciate you giving us a chance. To those of y'all that are going to listen later on, thank you very much in advance. And for those of y'all that hate us, can't stand us, really and truly wish we'd go away, well, like myself at the Golden Corral, Kathy Nat at Cafe Dumont, and Rob Bay for the Taco Festival, we ain't going anywhere for a while.
They hate us because they ain't us.
But we ain't stopping. But with that being said, we here at Ringside Society are very well aware that everybody and their grandparents and their parents have a podcast. But we're not your grandparents' podcast. We're not your parents' podcast. As a matter of fact, we're not just any podcast. Hey, yo, Rob Bass, Kathy Knight, one time for the mind, one time for the people, one time for the wrestling culture, and one time for former AAW heavyweight champion, former NWA Midwest Tag Team Champion, who is one half of one of the most impressive tag teams professional wrestling has ever seen, the Black and the Brave, the Product Marek Brave, who is also head trainer of Black and Brave Wrestling.
Woo!
What type of podcast are we?
All right. 3, 2, 1.
We're the
We're the
Wrestling Fans
Wrestling Fans
Podcast.
Podcast.
That's right, we're the Wrestling Fans Podcast. And with that being said, we will be back next week with another impressive, another exciting, pick whatever adjective it is. You don't want to miss it. But until then, we just want you to do four favors for us. Stay safe, stay healthy, be excellent to each other, and party on, dudes. We out. Peace.
See y'all. Good night. Stay classy, Delaware.
Bye. Go enjoy some wrestling. It's Friday.